Yeah, had to fill out a membership card again. I appreciate your prayers for our traveling mercy. We take that for granted. I was telling Jensen and them about a couple that weren't even traveling 60 miles away and had a tragic accident. We traveled over 2,000 miles total. And the Lord just saw fit to be merciful. And I've learned to be thankful because we live and move in Him. I want to talk to you this morning about wisdom. Wisdom. It was a relaxing trip. I got to read a book all the way through by Oswald Chambers. It was very... I'd done tried to read that thing through about 3 times. I'd get to chapter 2 and stuff would happen, but I made it through it this time. It's very enlightening, and I thank the Lord for that. I got to read and meditate on the back of that boat. They load you on there as a passenger, and they feed you so much they unload you with the cargo. So
unload you with the crane.
Had that hoist out there, had my name on it, you know. But we're in 2 Samuel chapter 20. You remember last time Joab murdered this fella, Amasa, so that he could reclaim his position as captain of the army. He didn't like David's pardon. We talked about the king's pardon wasn't good enough. And you know, I told y'all that on Christmas Eve. It's been that long since I've been up here, so you're right, I'm rusty. And I'd like to ask y'all how the New Year's resolutions are going, but I won't meddle or anything like that. But I mentioned to you, about holding our tongue and not taking out our sword. And by lunchtime the next day, I had the opportunity to practice what I preached. So this stuff is sweet in the mouth and bitter in the belly. I see a lot of what Joab did when I really look and what I want to do at times. I want to take off the high priest servant's ear in the name of the Lord. Let's not forget that, because I'm self-righteous. I can only be righteous through Him. It said in His lips there was no guile. When reviled, He reviled not. A soft answer turneth away wrath. And that's what we're going to look at here. What happens here? Sheba flees to a city called Abel. And apparently this is a town full of wise people. We might call it a university or a town full of computer geeks or nerds or something nowadays. Because she tells Joab besieges the city because Sheba flees there. Let's read this here. Verse 15 of chapter 20. And they came and besieged him in Abel of Beth-maachah. And they cast up a bank against the city, and it stood in the trench. And all the people that were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. Then cried a wise woman out of the city, Hear, hear, say, I pray you unto Joab, Come near hither, that I may speak with thee. And when he was come near unto her, the woman said, Art thou Joab? And he answered, I am he. Then she said unto him, Hear the words of thine handmaid. And he answered, I do hear. Then she spake, saying, There were wont to speak in old times, saying, They shall surely ask counsel at Abel. And so they ended the matter. And I have one of them that are peaceable and faithful in Israel. Thou seekest to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why wilt thou swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? And Joab said, Far be it from me, that I should swallow up or destroy. The matter is not so, but a man of Mount Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri, by name, hath lifted up his hand against the king, even against David. Deliver him only, and I will depart from the city. And the woman said unto Joab, Behold, his head shall be thrown to thee over the wall. Then the woman went unto all the people in her what? In her wisdom. And they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and cast it out to Joab, and he blew a trumpet. And they retired from the city, every man to his tent, and Joab returned to Jerusalem unto the king. A wise woman. Proverbs says, wisdom crieth out. She crieth out in the street. God help us that we'd have more wise women nowadays. I grew up in a circle we joke and make fun of, and at times belittle women when we probably should. I mean, the Bible does say they are the weaker vessel, and there are certain things they can and can't do in spiritual matters. But they have access to God just like us men do.
Oh, yeah.
And here, a wise woman. How did she get wise? Somebody trained her. Somebody trained. I don't want a dumb wife. I want a wise wife. How about y'all?
Your wife is the woman.
Yes. And I think the Lord has given me a wise one. But I've also taken time to teach her. We as men, we're head of the house. It is our job to teach in spiritual and in matters of the world. When we got married, she didn't know how to turn a computer on. I set her down in front of it, and I lied to her a little bit. I said, there's nothing you can do to this thing that I can't undo. And now she works a job where she works on computers every day. My point is wisdom. Wisdom crieth in the street. That is one of the things, at one point in my life, I made it a daily task to pray the Lord give me wisdom. James, the book of James. Boy, you want to talk about a matter-of-fact book. He don't mince words, does he? He don't give us a lot of allegory. He just said, if you like wisdom, ask.
Yeah.
Just like I like how he says, the wrath of man don't work the righteousness of God.
Amen.
Wisdom. What are we thirsting for? Are we thirsting for knowledge? You know, Daniel said in the last days that they would run to and fro in the streets with horseless chariots, and they would be increased in knowledge, not wisdom. Wisdom is knowing what to do or what the next thing is you should do in your current situation when the problems arise. What did this woman do? In her wisdom, listen, the devil had entered the city. And in her wisdom, she handled the situation. Her wisdom is reflected in how she handled Joab. Wisdom. And like I was telling you, that's one of the things, I took that to heart. Is James lying to us or not? If you lack wisdom, let him ask. And like I said, there for a long time, I would daily ask, Lord, give me wisdom. What did Solomon ask when God came to him and said, you're going to be the ruler of my people? Is there any request you have of me? And he said, give me wisdom and judgment so that I can discern the matters amongst these people. And God said, because you didn't ask for length of days or wealth or anything, you're going to get all of those because you have asked me for wisdom. Why? Because wisdom is the key to long life. Wisdom is the key to wealth. If I know better than to go out there and overextend myself and get myself in so much debt just so I can ride around in my shiny new car and everybody see me when I ride by. But you find out, yeah, those things come with a payment booklet and then the insurance company wants his cut. Wisdom. Ask if any man lack wisdom or any woman lack wisdom, let him ask or let her ask. I'm fascinated here by this, that this is not a man, really. That this is a woman that handled this situation. Where were the men out here? Shame on them. Shame on them. But Hannah was wise in her situation. What did she do? She prayed, and the Lord gave her a man-child. So I want to ask you, are we asking for wisdom? Are we trying to impart these children to grasp and obtain wisdom? Not knowledge necessarily. Listen, what did the devil promise Eve? What did the devil promise Eve in Genesis 3? He said, you will be as a God to know good and evil. See, there are certain things we shouldn't know. Have you ever seen something and said, I wish I could unsee that? You obtained some knowledge there you should not have. And that's what God told Adam and Eve, do not eat of that. Because if you do, you're going to obtain a knowledge and you cannot handle it. You will die. You will die. And not to get legalistic here, but that's why my dad, we grew up in a sheltered home. Very sheltered from the world. And at the time, I hated it. Because all my friends would talk about the things they would get to do and see and go, and my dad would keep us from that. But he was keeping us from that knowledge of evil because we did not have the wisdom to handle that. It scares me, and I see it so much with these kids that's plugged into the internet. It's dangerous. And I'm not trying to meddle or tell you how to raise your kids. Just be careful. Because there is a knowledge there that they shouldn't have. And I thank God as I got older and could see what my dad was shielding me from. He was shielding me from the knowledge of evil because I did not have the wisdom to handle it. In closing, I'd like for us to look at James. I talked about James. And we're told in the book of Proverbs too that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Why is that? Because it makes us, if we fear God, we become wise in that we don't sin. Because we're scared to sin. Because of the repercussions of it. In James chapter 3 here, this chapter is another matter-of-fact chapter. He starts out, and we're going to look here at the end of the chapter here, but in the first few verses, he's talking about the tongue. What a little member it is. But it can defile the whole body. And he said, if you meet a man that can rule his tongue, he's got pretty good self-control. Where does that come from? Well, listen, as I've gotten wiser, my mouth has gotten shut a whole lot more. When we deal with other people, especially with the world, are we dealing with them with wisdom? Or are we dealing with them with a sword? How did Jesus deal with that barrage that come to arrest him? He said, I'm he. How did Peter want to deal with him? Because Jesus had committed himself to him that judgeth righteously. He had that wisdom because he had been what? Watching and praying so that he did not enter into temptation. James said, if you lack wisdom, ask. Let's pick this up. Let's look at verse 14. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. So there is a bad kind of wisdom. And that bad kind of wisdom comes from that knowledge of evil. It's amazing. Before man fell, we only had a knowledge of good. And we were sustained by God because we were not polluted. We were not snake bit or poisoned yet. But when Eve and Adam gained that knowledge of evil, they did not have the wisdom to handle it. What they do, they run and hid. How do you hide from God? Sewed fig leaves together. What are they going to do when fall comes and the leaves die? This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. You talk about everything this flesh don't want to do. I just read it right there. Pure wisdom from above. I ask you this morning, do you lack wisdom? I do. I do. And even Solomon, with the wisdom that he gained, still in the end went away from God. This is the daily fight. I was telling John some lessons. We had some things come up. We had a good trip, but we had things that would happen. And I'd get bent, but they would work out for a better experience. And I'd say, Lord, I'm going to trust you. You know, the next thing that happens, I've got this now. I know what you're doing. Yeah. You know how long that lasts. The next day something had happened. I get bent out of shape. I told John said that's why it's daily. We need daily bread. But that's wisdom in seeing that, like you said, taking up our cross. It is for our good. And that's wisdom from above. Gentle, full of mercy. The same chapter where he's talking about the tongue there. And that's what I was talking about last time, about bridling our tongue with our family members or with the lost. Listen, we should let our light so shine before men that they want what we've got and not run away. And we're only going to do that if we ask for wisdom so that we'll know how to deal with Monday morning. I love y'all. It's good to be back. May the Lord bless you.